After I failed to win a national championship at Michigan State last year, I had three options. I could declare early for the NFL draft, I could stay at Michigan State, or I could transfer to a better program to boost my draft stock. And since Steve Merker graduated last year, I decided to enter the transfer portal. Georgia's Kirby Smart really wanted me, but after Nick Saban offered to bring me back, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to play for him again. And this time, he promised me I'd see the field, but I couldn't believe who my first opponent was, and it was honestly just not a good start for me at Alabama. I think I was just a little shocked that Nick Saban scheduled my former team, and I was not expecting to be down by 28 points to them. They say the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and they might actually be right about that. All of a sudden, I was watching my career unfold and fail in the worst of ways, but then it hit me. If I was the reason that this Alabama offense actually started moving the ball and winning games, my draft stock would skyrocket and I could make the NFL as a 5'5" receiver. I understand 4 drops isn't a great start, but I was ready to work hard at practice. And after building up some chemistry with Jalen Milroe and the rest of my team, I was ready to go out and rail Akron. This play alone showed I could still win the Crimson Tide an SEC championship, a national championship, and a Heisman Trophy, as I took it 80 yards to the house like it was nothing. If you thought my season was over after one loss, you were wrong. In fact, I think I was more motivated than ever to succeed and make it to the NFL. Everything was on the line and failure simply wasn't an option for me as I caught my 3rd touchdown of the game in the 3rd quarter. The craziest part is I wasn't done after that play because I was able to get wide open and catch another touchdown to end the day. The redemption arc was just beginning as we beat a MAC school with ease, which wasn't always the case at Michigan State. It was going to be a slow climb back to the top, but I was going to do everything that I could to get my team to the SEC championship, as I was making toe-touch sideline grabs like I was DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, we should go out and beat Hawaii, so it was no surprise that I was able to get wide open on the Rainbow Warriors and rack up almost 100 receiving yards super early in the game. I was finding all of the open holes in the defense and Jalen Milroe was putting it in them. So by the 3rd quarter, the only thing I still needed was a touchdown grab, which surprisingly wouldn't come as easy as I thought it would. Even though I was practically getting force-fed the ball, my tiny body couldn't take it as I got hurt, so I had to sit out the rest of the game, which meant that I had 189 yards without a touchdown. I was back from injury this week against Ole Miss, and I was ready to get back into a rhythm. However, Jalen Milroe definitely wasn't on target today as he was throwing it inaccurately throughout the entire 1st quarter. So I was on pace to have a worse game than the Michigan State one. Jalen Milroe continued to struggle to complete a pass. However, he did find me in the end zone to end the 1st half, and I tried to make a block to help him score a touchdown of his own in the 3rd quarter. A few minutes later, it was a tie game, so I broke the Ole Miss press and used my top-end speed to get my team all the way down to the 7-yard line, which ended up leading to another touchdown. And then, with the game on the line, I got wide open. Jalen Milroe hit me in stride, and I ran with it for 56 yards to the house to put us up by 2 possessions. So we won the rivalry game, and it was partially because of me. However, I had to focus immediately. Number 2, Texas A&M was going to be hard to beat at home, but I was off to an amazing start with this easy touchdown grab. And that was not the end of my success. With a minute left in the 1st quarter, Jalen Milroe led me perfectly with a beautiful pass, and I ended up fighting my way into the end zone. Whoever number 31 was no longer had a scholarship after this game because I was making him look like a fool over and over. And I legitimately can't think of a time when he stopped me. Midway through the 3rd quarter, I was approaching 200 receiving yards, and this was my breakout game that would make the country remember my name because NFL scouts were definitely watching this top 6 matchup. Surely one of them would take a shot on a 5'5" receiver, but obviously there was still a long season to get through before I'd find out if I could make the NFL. And I was going to make sure that we escaped College Game Day with a win over number 2 Texas A&M. I wasn't quite sure why Nick Saban was still calling passing plays, but it ended up getting me an Alabama record, and even though we choked our lead and only had 30 seconds left, I made sure that we didn't lose the game in the end with this 50-yard shocker to the Aggies. I was an Alabama legend after that, but I still wasn't on the Heisman watch list, so I was motivated to keep performing on another level than everyone else. And my one-handed catches in the rain had to draw attention. I was slipping and still catching the ball, so I thought I was set to have an amazing game, but all of a sudden, I couldn't feel a thing because I got knocked out cold. I'm not quite sure what Tua level of concussion protocol I went through, but I was back out there, so I have a feeling somebody on our medical staff was brought over turnover from the Dolphins. And I guess it was worth it to keep me in the game. Even if after some of my nasty routes I got completely railed by defenders, I survived the entire game and my head only hurt a little bit. But if I had any injury issues in the future, I knew exactly what I'd do. As a smart student athlete, I understand that when you're injured, you deserve compensation and the size of your law firm matters. One of the most asked questions around the country is, does size matter? And I'd say it does. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm with more than 800 attorneys nationwide. They have recovered over $13 billion for their clients, and the best part is you pay nothing upfront for their services. The fee is completely free unless they win. That is a great deal, and getting started is super easy. It's as simple as dialing pound law from your cell phone or visiting forthepeople.com. Thank you to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring today's video, and at this point in the season, we had a 2-game lead on the rest of the SEC, and I was going to make sure Alabama actually won at Neyland Stadium this time. I already had 2 catches for 45 yards on our first drive, but I wouldn't get targeted again until midway through the second quarter when I burned the Tennessee cornerback for a massive 57-yard gain. I'm not sure what it was with me and making big plays, but you could call me Jamar Chase the way I was able to simply run straight and score a 53-yard touchdown. With a few minutes left, we had a great lead, but then Jalen Milroe threw it straight to the Volunteer defense, and they'd end up taking it back to make it a 1-possession game, and he was selling as he couldn't make an accurate throw. With 3 minutes left, he did it again, throwing another interception which also turned into a pick 6, making it 28-28. Then he fumbled it away with 2.5 minutes left, so Tennessee took a lead, but their kicker missed the extra point, which gave us a chance to go down the field and score on them. I ended up making the game-winning catch, so once again we survived because of me. I traveled to Death Valley, and like last week, my goal was to make sure that Alabama actually won this time, and I got us off to a good start by getting wide open for a 32-yard touchdown on the Tigers. But with halftime approaching, it was 10-7, so my goal was to get us into the end zone before the end of the second quarter, and we were able to do so. I felt like my draft stock had to be skyrocketing, but maybe not, because I had a bad habit of calling for the ball when I wasn't open. I ended the third quarter with this catch, and that was enough to get us the win along with getting me onto the Heisman watch list. So that motivated me to work even harder throughout the year, and I opened up our game at Mississippi State with a nice catch. But after that, they started pounding me. I don't know why they were railing me so hard, but I couldn't hold on to it, so I made sure to bounce back as soon as I could. However, even though I was doing well by scoring a lot, my team's defense wasn't, so I knew that I would have to step up my game even more than I already had just to keep us in it. And by halftime, I had 3 touchdown catches on the Bulldogs. I continued to dominate in the third quarter, getting my team down to the 1 and watching them run it in. But if you thought I'd stop there, you'd be wrong. My team's defense literally wasn't doing a thing, so I had to continue to make massive plays to keep us in the game. And I had so much relief when this touchdown put us up by 4. We escaped with another win, and I was practically unstoppable. So I was excited to play in the rain against UTSA. It was nice to not face an SEC defense, and I was enjoying the easier path to putting up great stats. Midway through the third quarter, I ended up breaking an Alabama school record for receiving yards in a season on this 61-yard touchdown play, and everything was going how I planned. With another game over 200 yards, I needed to stay on track at Georgia if I wanted to get drafted at the end of the year. So I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that we won. And that meant catching balls with one hand when they were thrown behind me. By the end of the second quarter, we only had a 1-possession lead on the Bulldogs, and then Jalen Milroe threw an interception on the goal line. So all of a sudden, we were in a tie game with Georgia, and by the end of the third quarter, we were losing by 3. Yet somehow, we ended up getting in a good position to win, and I was pumped up because we were now 10-1. And if I could take down Alabama's biggest rivals, I'd probably win the Heisman. Not only did I get my team into the end zone first, but it also set an NCAA record for receiving yards in a season. And I was going to make sure that Auburn fans hated me. Midway through the second quarter, I caught another touchdown, and I was unstoppable today trying to lock my draft stock into the first round and securing the bag with a massive NFL paycheck. To end the third quarter, I put the nail in the coffin as I got wide open down the sideline and took it 64 yards to the house for the remarkable touchdown. So we beat our rivals, and it was behind my 4-touchdown performance. I couldn't believe I was playing against Vanderbilt in the SEC championship, but I'd assume they have a great head coach. However, he couldn't have been too good because he didn't have a game plan to stop me, and I was doing whatever I wanted on offense. But somehow, with a minute left in the first half, we were trailing the Commodores, and I was pulling every route out of my book that I knew, trying to get my team in the end zone. But I failed to make a simple catch, so I was starting to get really frustrated about our situation. Going into the fourth, we were down by 4, and that's when I decided it was time to take over. I got wide open on this corner route and got my team all the way down inside the red zone, but unfortunately, it didn't result in a score. However, with a minute left, we took a 3-point lead, and after our defense got a clutch stop, we became SEC Conference champions. I knew this was practically a freebie since I was at Alabama, but I had contributed a bunch to this, and that meant that I won the Heisman Trophy. Obviously, with these stats, I definitely deserved it, but it was time for my last collegiate game ever, and I was playing in the national championship game against undefeated Syracuse. This remarkable 59-yard touchdown play would put my team up by 10 early on, and I set another NCAA record at the same time. The whole reason I transferred to Alabama was to elevate my career, and I felt like I had done that. Surprisingly, my worst performance of the year was the championship game, but I had achieved everything I ever wanted. And after celebrating the national championship win with my team, I had to get ready for the NFL draft. I was projected to go in the first round, and in the end, the team that drafted me will be announced in the next video on November 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, so make sure you're subscribed and don't miss it.